Thank you for staying with us. And we get talking now. And it has to do with, possibly virtually the biggest news around. And that is the confirmation that the controversial tax bills have been signed into law by Mr. President BOLA AHMED TINUBU. And that happened yesterday. And it gave its assent, quite a controversial one, and there is a history to that particular bill. It's quite an executive one. It was like an executive bill, by the way, and you remember almost 6-7 months ago when it was introduced, furore, controversy, all over the place. Oh, it is targeted against a part of the country. It is targeted towards the low-income earners, and that particular push, the committee was led by Taiwo Yedele, erudite man, quite, he was so sure of himself to say, no, this is for the benefit of all Nigerians. At the end of the day, during those periods, the bills, sometimes they were withdrawn to be reworked, negotiations, conversations, all over the place. Some governors spoke about it, the Nigerian Governors Forum, Babagana Zulum, especially those of the northern regions. I know it is targeted against us. Taiwo Dele said, no, it's for the generality of the people. But yesterday, it was signed into law. 4 critical tax reform bills yesterday, June 26, 2025. And the purpose, in those bills, there are 4 in nature. And it has addressed Nigeria tax bill, to harmonize fragmented tax laws, reduce tax duplication, multiplicity, simplifies compliance for businesses, encourages investment and growth. Then we have the Bill 2 and 3, which is about tax administration and revenue service. Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, uniform framework for tax at all government levels, greater efficiency in tax collection. And then the Bill 4 as well, which is the Joint Revenue Board, a formal collaboration between federal, state, and local revenue bodies, set up a tax appeal tribunal, introduces the Office of the Tax Ombudsman for taxpayer rights. And by the way, very categorically, the FRS in that bill has been changed to National Revenue Service. And the import of the assent yesterday will kickstart by January 2026. Now, the questions Nigeria will ask is, how does this pay us? The proponents of those bills have said it is, a landmark. It will be a game changer. Will it be so? It's coming with its own prospect and, of course, some pessimism as well. We have somebody who will let us into all of this with us today, Chief Economist at SPM Professionals, Dr. Paul Alaje, joins us virtually. Good morning, Dr. Alaje.
Good morning, and thank you so very much for having me. A beautiful morning to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm very well assured and confident that you have been following these bills because it's about the economy, it's about the people. Yesterday, finally, it has been signed by Mr. President. What do you make of this development? The proponents are saying it will be a landmark one. It will be a game changer. Is it like that at your end as a professional here?
Well, it's a major review to our fiscal life. Apart from the national budget, tax review, it's a major review to our fiscal life. Remember that when I was on your show at your colloquium, I mentioned that the federal government is trying to take the third leg of major reform, which was tax review, which the federal government was considering at the time. Yesterday, that was signed to law. The commencement date is going to be 1st of January, according to His Excellency, Mr. President. This tax policy, new tax bills, about 4 of them that have now become an act of the Parliament, 4 of them, they come with their benefits and some concerns. Number 1 is personal income tax rate is now 0% for very low income earner, people who are earning below 800,000 naira, and we also have 25% for those who are earning that per annum. If you're earning 800,000 naira per annum, let's say approximately 1 million plus some allowance that is given on accommodation, that's approximately someone earning 83,000 naira per month, we now need to pay 0. But you need to pay 25% for those earning above 50 million naira. So that's how the tax has pushed it. Recall that the proponent of this tax we're trying to raise VAT to about 15%. And some of us felt this will, of course, affect inflation. But whether or not the final copy signed by Mr. President, we still increase VAT, is what we need to wait and see. This tax bill signed has also reduced corporate tax, corporate income tax. It's currently 30%. He hopes to bring it down to 27.5 and to 25% in the coming period. By 2026, when it's starting, we'll know which of these the government, because the tax envisaged that the tax bill will start by 2025, but with the new announcement, it might start by 2026. So then it rely heavily on digital process, digitalization of tax process. And this is something that is really very good because of the kind of age that we now live in. Hardly can we do anything without quality digitalization. The question now is, do we have quality digital formation or base as a nation? Because if you check, of our 777 local governments, at least 200 of them have deep-seated concern regarding digital process or digital filing. As I'm talking to you, I'm in Plateau State, and I'm in the rural of Plateau State, where you might say there are some concerns that people should not go. But as a researcher, we have to face some realities and measure for ourselves what is the impact on the life of people. The good news again is that distribution, the new distribution formula is 60% to consuming states. That was what was proposed, and 20% population, then 20% to be shared equally amongst it. But that, of course, has been changed when this tax bill was passed at the House of Representatives. So the goal is, number one benefit is great. It's expected to boost Nigerian revenue from 10% to GDP to about 18%. That means 8% surge is what we're expecting. Perhaps in 3 or 5 years, we're expecting that to come in the stream. Government is also looking at excluding low-income earner from paying taxes, which I think is also commendable. And the federal government has ceded 5% of its share of VAT to the state government, while local government maintain 35%, and state now get 55%, federal government only to go with 10%, which means it's big good news for the subnational. So on one hand, revenue may reduce for government, especially the federal government, but if you can wrap up with conversation around digitalization or digital process, then definitely it's going to be good news for Nigeria. But what are the concerns very quickly? Number one, the state and local government offices may lack infrastructure and expertise to adopt this digital system. It's a real concern. Transition to Nigerian Revenue Service will require direct capacity building and significant budgetary support at the beginning. And we say that although they have 6 months to put this in place, whether this will dominate some of the subnationals and local government, it's another conversation entirely. Now, we also hope that in the coming period, there will be that continuous agreement between North and South fiscal tension that we saw when something was going on. The SMEs is not particularly exempted. This new tax bill mandates that the TIN and quarterly filing electronic record may be overwhelming for small businesses. Imagine a small business around you there in Oshobo, one person who has, maybe the man is running maybe photocopying business. He cannot employ anybody, but he has registered an enterprise. He needs to file now, and this filing must be a quarterly filing record. So it might be overwhelming, although there is not an exemption to the law. Everybody had their chance to raise concerns when this bill was going on. But now that is the law, it can only go through the Act of Parliament for a review, especially except if government now classify again that some businesses are mini and micro, and because of that, they might be exempted. But as of today, the law is the law. We also have, there may be conflict that may arise between the new tax body and existing state's revenue service, because this tax bill did not repeal revenue services in the state. So whether states we just directly align or not, we still need to wait for that. So there may be some legal framework and institution overlap before we can know exactly what is to be done. So,
all right, Dr. Alaje.
To my mind.
Okay, I thought you wanted to continue, but because of our time, I really wanted us to take a critical look at some issues within the tax law now. Just because of our time. You mentioned some figures. I just wanted to make some clarifications and also take a critical look at some of the indices there. Now, the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, Taiwo Idele, has made some revelations as to the assumptions and calculations that informed the tax bills that have just been passed into law. And here are some of them very quickly. The first one, talking about the poverty line. The international poverty line. For instance, the United Nations and the World Bank agrees that $2.15 is the international poverty line. Anyone who earns below $2.15 is poor. But according to the committee, they are saying no, they do not agree with that because according to them, there are some Nigerians who actually earn less than $2.15 per day, but they are not poor because they are producing their own food and they do not need transportation. So they came up with a new figure, with a new parameter to judge poverty in Nigeria, saying if we have a family of 5 in Nigeria, if 2 out of the family of 5 are working and they are earning, say, 120,000, between 120 to 130,000, put together, that's 250,000 for 2 individuals working in a family of 5, that those 2 people can take care of the 5, the total family. So they are actually able to take care of their basic needs. They may not have luxury, but they can take care of their basic needs. So they are seen as still being poor. So this tax bill sees 250,000 naira and below for a household as being poor, and they will be exempted from taxation. Households earning 250,000 and below will pay 0 tax. So that is one assumption from that calculation. Then they said the middle class. They are saying the middle as those who are earning between 1.8 million naira to 2 million naira. And they say we have about 5% that they make up, that category makes up about 5% of the total population of Nigeria, that there we have their taxes reduced. Then those earning above that, we have their taxes slightly increased, arguing that this is a people-centric tax. Then another one, they said, for now, that Nigeria is only collecting about 30% of the total tax it should be collecting, that there is a 70% gap they are trying to fill up. So these are the basic calculations and assumptions underlying the new tax bills. As a professional, what's your assessment of these assumptions and calculations?
Well, so many persons have argued that Nigerians are not poor, claiming the example and instances that you gave. But what I can tell you is that I've been privileged to have traveled to different parts of the world, and I can tell you what we say we do in Nigeria is actually not unique to Nigeria. There are several places where several people produce their food beyond what they earn, they're able to produce. So, but you see, if you must agree with the formula, we should not pick it only when it benefits us. So in India, what you said is obtainable. In China, what you said is obtainable. So if we must say, if we want to align with what the world is saying, then we need to align wholeheartedly. We cannot pick it in the case of, oh, the world is, some international institution is asking us to devalue our currency, then it's good to devalue. We look for argument for it. You know, they ask us to remove subsidy. The argument makes sense, so let's remove subsidy. Now they are telling us that our people are poor because of $15.15. We say, no, we are not really poor. So we cannot, on one hand, say these are the things that work. You see, for the policies we have adopted before, it's important for us to balance it by knowing that economic theater is not in chemistry laboratory. Economic theater is on the streets of Lagos, on the streets of Oshobo, on the streets of Sokoto, on the street of Ebonyi, on the street of Katsina. That is where economic street is. So when you get to that laboratory, you want to make sure that your experiment does not fail. And if it does not fail, you need to look after the specimen, in this case, the people. My argument to that, while I will not counter and for against, but I will tell you that it's important that we review how we measure poverty today. And like I've said, I've spoken with a number of journalists. You can pull people's opinion. People have been earning, this has been people's way of life when we use some parameter to determine poverty. Changing them today, thinking that things are changed overnight, may not really be. So clearly speaking, I would say that the global standard to measuring poverty is $2.15, and that $2.15 clearly will give us an amount. If you multiply by 1,600, then the figure it comes up with is what people, to my mind, shouldn't pay any form of taxation. Then when you look at an amount higher than that, then you see that even when you look at what some persons are earning, for instance, professors in the university, and you place that side by side with the new tax bill, you know, it's going to give us some figures. I think approximately about 6 million or
Dr.
less
Alaje,
per annum.
Let's be factual. Let's be more factual now. You talk about professors. The first category, those who are known as poor, are households that earn $250,000 and less. They are regarded as poor. For a family of 5 earning $250,000 and less. You talked about professors now. The second category, which is the middle class, is between 1.8 million naira and 2 million naira. So do you think professors in Nigeria earn up to 1.8 million naira to 2 million? Because according to that calculation, they said 5% of the total population of Nigeria actually earn up to 1.8 to 2 million.
You need to look at the document. Is the document telling you per month or per year?
We are talking about per month here, per month. The calculations I'm giving you, the assumptions are per month. Yeah.
So if it is per month, that means carefully they've classified the professors who are earning 500,000 as the middle class, according to their own calculations. So that is how Nigeria grouped them. Those are the people who are in the middle class. But you see, when you look at it in the global context, the first and the second categories are still people living below the poverty line, on the poverty line, and slightly above the poverty line. When you are talking about the middle class, it cannot be less than $3,500 per month. Okay, but if you make provision for the country we live in, then you'll be looking at an approximately $2,500 per month in the reality of the country we live in. Yeah, when I know that revenue are relatively scarce and people as not as the economy is not as booming as we expect it because of some decisions and some economic, both internal and external, that has happened to us and on us, then we should also know that in taking decisions, it's important to put the people first.
All right. Now, talking about these bills and the prospect, because some are pessimistic to say, you know, we hope this doesn't just end up an academic thing. And some are saying, okay, maybe we're about to get it right now. For the benefits now, you know, for small businesses, we have, you know, some postulations here that there will be increase in tax exemptions threshold for small businesses from annual turnover of 25 million to 50 million naira. Exemption from company income tax for small businesses, tax will be at 0%. No withholding tax deduction on business income on small businesses, exemption from the requirement to deduct and account for tax on payment to vendors, and simplified statement of accounts attested to by small businesses owner for tax returns in place of audited financial statements, harmonization of taxes and repeal of multiple levies, which has been, you know, a problem before, harmonization now. Then tax disputes affecting businesses to be resolved within 14 days by the tax ombudsman, and outlaw cash payment and physical roadblocks imposing burden on businesses. Attractive tax regime to encourage formalization of business and facilitate growth, and introduction of the Office of Tax Ombud to protect taxpayers against arbitrary tax assessment. Looking at all of this, one would say, oh, hooray, fine. But having gone through all of this, especially my concern is the MSMEs. Do you see this genuinely with the prospect before us now that this is one thing that you call a pro-people law? Dr. Alaje, if you can hear me.
Hello?
All right. Can you hear me?
Hello?
All right. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
All
So
right.
I can tell you that some of the things that you mentioned are clear, and those are the benefits that I think the tax reform or this new tax bill has provided us with. And I mentioned some of them when I had my opening remark, that those are the benefits of this new tax bill. So clearly, those are the things we are looking forward to doing. It's going to help small businesses, no doubt about that. The poor, we also have some tax exemption, clearly, but the engine room of any nation is the middle class and the wealthy. The wealthy and the middle class we should also be careful so that they keep providing wealth for those that are poor so that they can come out of their poverty. At the end of the day, what is important is balance. Like I said earlier, it's a huge success that we have been able to transform from.
All right. The connection has issue here. All right. Dr. Alaje, if you can see here us. I'm afraid. I'm afraid possibly that's all we can take from him because of time and all of these things. We hope this will be a really pro-people bill. I mean, it's a law now.
Yeah, look at yes. When I looked at the parameters again, for
how
the
tax
system that
okay. Dr. Alaje, you might please land on your thought.
I have said that some of the things that were said are very correct, and I believe they can to a large extent help improve the fiscal life. I also mentioned the support for SMEs and so on and so forth. The area of concern is what I have mentioned, and that area of concern is that number one, we need to wrap up with the digital process. We also need to align with the subnational and the local government so that they are totally have a buy-in. Areas where we need to digitally improve activities, we need to do that, and we should not increase VAT anytime soon. Good news for small businesses, micro businesses, good news for low-income earner, but we should not keep them, we should not make them to remain low. The engine room of any nation is the middle class and the relatively wealthy people. They are the ones that create wealth. They are the ones that help wealthy people to create wealth so that we can leave the poor out of poverty. If not, the poor will keep relying on government, it becomes burden, then infrastructure that is mostly needed for everybody is not provided. Congratulations once again, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. I understand you must go. Thank you for coming up, and wish you all the best. We wish Nigerians all the best. And you have congratulated Nigerians. We hope by January next year when it starts, and by June, we'll be able to take a review to say this is really congratulatory in nature. Thank you, Dr. Alaje.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Of course, Dr. Alaje is the Chief Economist at SPM Professionals, bearing his mind on the latest development as far as tax bill is concerned. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we talk about local government administration in Osun State. Where are we? There's been legal fireworks, for months now. And both camps are saying we are the ones dealing in charge, the Osun APC, the Osun PDP. But then the people are saying, where do you leave us? Stay with us.